Ambassador Marcus Webb stood in the center of the judgment sphere, and for the first time in his diplomatic career, he felt genuinely small. The Galactic Council chamber was unlike anything humanity had ever built. It was a perfect sphere, 3 kilometers across, where gravity pulled inward from all directions. Observation platforms floated at every angle, creating a globe of witnesses around him. Thousands of alien beings watched from their designated spaces, representing species from across the galaxy. Many platforms were dark now, empty, silent memorials to civilizations that no longer existed. Webb adjusted his stance, fighting the disorientation of standing in the sphere's center where up and down lost all meaning. Behind him, Dr. Raymond Kai and Commander Lisa Torres waited in their sealed environment suits. The Council had demanded humans wear protective gear during all proceedings. It was standard procedure when uninfected species approached the dying core worlds, except humanity was not uninfected anymore. That was why they were here. High Arbiter Velmoth towered above on the primary platform, a crystalline being whose body flickered with internal light that shifted colors with emotion. Right now, that light burned angry red. When Velmoth spoke, the voice resonated through the chamber using technology Webb could not begin to understand. You stand accused of violating the quarantine edict. Humanity was ordered to seal your borders and remain in your home system, yet your ships now move freely through restricted zones. 3 human vessels were detected near the collapse boundary yesterday. Explain this violation. Webb took a slow breath. Around him, he could feel the weight of alien attention. Some species leaned forward with interest. Others showed obvious disgust at the presence of such a young, primitive race in their sacred chamber. The Thel hierarchy representatives on Platform 72 watched with their 6 eyes narrowed in suspicion. The Corthan delegates clutched their breathing apparatus tighter, their chest plates already showing the crystalline growths that marked the final stages of the Whisper Plague. Everyone here was dying. The plague had consumed 417 species in just 2 galactic cycles. The Council's greatest scientists had failed to find a cure. Their most advanced medical facilities had collapsed under the weight of endless casualties. And now humanity, discovered barely 20 Earth years ago and still considered primitive by galactic standards, stood accused of breaking the one law designed to protect the last survivors. "We broke quarantine," Webb said clearly, his voice carrying through the translation systems to every platform. "Because quarantine is killing you," the chamber erupted. Shocked voices in 100 languages filled the air. On platform after platform, representatives gestured in anger or disbelief. How dare this human speak to them this way? How dare he claim to understand their situation better than they did? Velmoth raised multiple crystalline appendages, and slowly, silence returned. The High Arbiter's light pulsed with something that might have been fury, or might have been desperation. "You dare speak of our deaths? The Whisper Plague has destroyed civilizations that existed for millions of years. Our greatest minds have searched for answers, and you, whose species still fights wars over resources, claim to know better?" "We do not claim to know better," Dr. Kai stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. "We claim to have found something you missed. May I present our findings?" Velmoth's light flickered between colors, then settled on dim blue. Curiosity, Webb had learned, or perhaps resignation. "Proceed." Kai activated his tablet, and holographic projections filled the center of the sphere. Streams of data appeared, showing infection patterns across hundreds of worlds. 3 months ago, our xenobiology teams began studying the plague. We noticed something unusual. The disease does not mutate randomly. It adapts with purpose. It learns from each species it encounters. And most importantly, it follows patterns. Commander Torres stepped forward, her neural interface adding new layers to the holographic display. We mapped every outbreak across the known galaxy. When we analyzed the data, we found this. The projection shifted, showing infection timelines. The pattern was subtle, but once seen, impossible to ignore. The plague did not spread naturally. It moved strategically, isolating species, cutting off trade routes, targeting leadership centers first. "This is not a disease," Torres said quietly. "This is a weapon. And weapons have users." The chamber fell silent. On the platforms, beings who had accepted their deaths with dignity now stared at the human data with new eyes. Ambassador Thren of the Axios Collective, one of the oldest species in the Council, leaned forward. Her translucent form wavered with illness, but her voice was steady. You claim the plague is controlled? By whom? We have found no evidence of external manipulation. Because you were looking for technology, Kai responded. You searched for ships, for transmissions, for physical agents. But the control mechanism is biological. It is hidden within the plague itself. He changed the display again, zooming deep into the genetic structure of infected cells. There, buried in what everyone had assumed was random mutation, lay something else. A pattern, a signal structure, a network. The whisper plague is not random, Kai continued. Every infected being is connected through quantum entanglement to a central control system. A hive mind. And that hive mind has been directing this plague from the beginning, ensuring maximum casualties while appearing natural. Velmoth's light flickered rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation in his species. This is impossible. Our scientists would have detected such a structure. Your scientists were dying, Webb said, his voice harder now. Your protocols demanded isolation of research teams, quarantine of infected samples, separation of data. You followed every rule designed to contain a natural pathogen. But this is not natural, and your rules made it easier to kill you. He let that sink in before continuing. Humanity does not follow rules well. When the plague reached Earth, we did not quarantine cleanly. We shared data across all networks. We exposed ourselves deliberately to study it from the inside. We did everything wrong by your standards, and that is why we found what you missed. 6 weeks ago, Torres added, we located the source of the control signal. We found the entity directing this plague, and we learned something else. This has happened before, many times, across multiple galaxies. New data filled the sphere, historical records that the humans had pieced together from fragments of dead civilizations, images of worlds stripped bare, evidence of previous plagues. A pattern stretching back millions of years. We call them the harvesters, Webb said. They seed galaxies with engineered diseases, then wait for civilizations to follow proper quarantine procedures and die isolated and alone. Once everyone is dead, they return to claim the resources. Worlds, technology, biological material. They have done this 17 times in this galaxy alone. The chamber erupted again, but this time with fear rather than anger. Representatives called out questions. Some demanded proof. Others simply stared at the data, seeing their deaths in a new and terrible light. Velmoth's voice cut through the chaos. If what you say is true, if this plague is controlled by hostile intelligence, then what do you propose? How do you fight a disease? Webb met the High Arbiter's gaze. This was the moment. This was why they had come. You cannot fight a disease with medicine alone, but you can fight an enemy with weapons. And that is what humanity proposes to do. He activated his own command interface, pulling up tactical displays that showed human fleet positions. 200 warships gathered at the edge of Council space, ready to move. Tomorrow, humanity launches a military operation to locate and destroy the Harvester command structure. We have found where the control signal originates. We intend to attack it directly. But we need Council authorization to pass through restricted space. We need access to the fold gates. This is madness, Thren whispered. You speak of war against an enemy you cannot see. We speak of survival, Webb countered. Because 6 weeks ago, when we found the harvesters, they found us too. The plague has reached Earth. We now have documented cases of whisper plague infection in our population. If we do nothing, Earth will die like every other world. But humanity has never accepted death quietly. Velmoth was silent for a long moment. His crystalline form pulsed through a spectrum of colors. Finally, he spoke. The Council will deliberate. You will wait in the holding chambers. But know this, Ambassador Webb. If you are wrong, if you have merely spread the infection further through your recklessness, the surviving species will hunt humanity to extinction. Understood, Webb nodded. But if we are right, you will owe your survival to the species you once called primitive. The judgment sphere began to empty as delegates returned to their chambers to debate. Webb and his team were escorted to a transparent holding room where they could see but not hear the ongoing arguments. Hours passed. Through the walls, they watched as representatives collapsed from the plague, even as they argued about humanity's proposal. The death toll climbed with each passing minute. Finally, Velmoth returned with 4 other High Council members. The crystalline being's light was dim now, pulsing with exhaustion or resignation. The medical research vessel Hippocrates drifted through the debris field that was once the Threxian home system. Dr. Raymond? Kai sealed his environment suit and walked through the observation deck where rows of stasis pods lined the walls. Inside each pod lay a human volunteer, deliberately infected with the Whisper Plague at different stages. This was where humanity's war truly began, not with weapons, but with science and sacrifice. Kai spoke into his recorder as he checked the vital signs of Subject 17. Day 73 of the infection study. Subject 17 continues to show resistance to Stage 3 progression. Unlike all documented alien cases, the human immune system is actively fighting back rather than simply shutting down. Behind him, Dr. Helena Voss approached with her tablet displaying complex genetic sequences. Her eyes were red from lack of sleep, but her voice was urgent. Raymond, look at this. I have run the analysis 12 times. The results are always the same. She projected 2 rotating genetic structures into the air. One belonged to the Whisper Plague. The other was human DNA. Do you see it? The plague's attack mechanism. The way it unfolds and enters cells. It is nearly identical to smallpox. Kai felt his blood run cold. Smallpox. A disease that killed millions of humans for thousands of years. Exactly, Voss confirmed. The Whisper Plague is not just derived from Earth diseases. It is specifically engineered based on human immune responses. Someone studied our plagues. Someone took what evolved naturally on Earth and weaponized it for the entire galaxy. Which means, Kai said slowly, humanity was supposed to die first. This weapon was designed to kill us before spreading to other species. But they got the timing wrong, Voss continued. They expected to find us primitive and vulnerable. Instead, we had already eradicated smallpox. We had built immunity over generations. When the plague arrived, we were the one species that could resist it. The ship's alarms suddenly blared. Kai and Voss rushed to the bridge where Captain James Rourke stood at the tactical display. The view screen showed something emerging from the twisted space beyond normal dimensions. The ship was organic and mechanical at once. Its surface covered in the same crystalline growths that marked plague victims in their final hours. Biological readings are extreme, the sensor officer reported. That vessel is saturated with Whisper Plague material. It is not just carrying the disease. It is made from it. Weapons ready, Rourke ordered. But hold fire. If that thing wanted us dead, we would be dead already. The alien ship held position, making no aggressive moves. Then something happened that nobody expected. A signal bypassed their communication systems entirely and projected directly into their neural implants. The message was delivered in crystalline harmonics that barely translated to human language. Why do you still breathe? Kai stepped forward, his heart pounding. Open a channel. If it can ask questions, maybe it will answer them too. Doctor, that is a terrible idea, Rourke warned. But Kai was already activating his neural interface. We breathe because our ancestors suffered through diseases like you. Because we learned to survive. Who are you? Who created you? 3 seconds of silence. Then the response came with a flood of information that threatened to overwhelm their systems. Images poured through. Genetic sequences. Historical records from civilizations that died before current species evolved. The data organized itself slowly, revealing a horrifying truth. The Whisper Plague was not natural. It was a weapon created by beings called the Harvesters. They seeded galaxies with engineered diseases, waited for civilizations to die following proper quarantine protocols, then returned to harvest everything left behind. They had done this 17 times across the galaxy. Each time they released the plague and watched entire civilizations collapse within cycles. They have done this before, Voss whispered, watching the data stream past. Over and over. They release the plague. Everyone follows containment protocols. Everyone dies isolated and separated. Then the harvesters return to take what is left. But why is this one talking to us? Rourke demanded. Another message arrived. I am Fragment 907, Autonomous Reconnaissance Unit. My function is to monitor plague deployment and report resistance anomalies. You are an anomaly. You should have died in the first wave. Your world should be silent. Your species should not exist. We are full of surprises, Kai said carefully. How many others have resisted? Across 17 deployment cycles, 0 resistance beyond statistical variation. Quarantine protocols ensure optimal mortality rates. But you do not quarantine correctly. You share infected subjects. You gather diseased material. You violate every logical containment procedure. Voss looked at Kai, understanding dawning. We are chaos to them. Their entire strategy depends on civilized species behaving predictably, following safety rules. But humans are terrible at following rules. Exactly, Kai said. We are messy, disorganized, we experiment. And that is why we found what others missed. Your resistance endangers the harvest, Fragment 907 continued. The collector fleet has been notified. They will arrive in 43 of your days. Standard protocol is elimination of resistance organisms. A fleet, Rourke muttered. How large? The answer came with more data. Ships by the thousands, each one a biological weapon platform designed to sterilize entire star systems. The images showed previous harvests, worlds stripped bare, atmospheres processed. All life consumed and converted into raw materials. Why are you telling us this? Kai asked. Fragment 907's response took longer, as if the entity was processing something new. I am reconnaissance. I observe, I report. I do not understand why you asked. No species has ever asked questions before. They simply accept, they die. You ask questions. You resist. You are irregular. We are human, Kai said simply. And we do not accept death without fighting. Can you help us? I cannot. I am harvester property, but I will continue to observe. You are unprecedented data, perhaps worth documenting before your extinction. The fragment ship began retreating toward the dimensional tear it had emerged from. Wait, Voss called out. At least tell us how many harvesters exist. How many ships? How many worlds have they taken? Fragment 907's final message arrived as its ship vanished. Total harvester population is unknown. Fleets number in the hundreds. Worlds claimed number in the millions across multiple galaxies. Duration of operations is 4 billion years. Probability of your survival is 0.03%. But you asked. No species has ever asked before. This will be reported as additional anomaly. Then it was gone, leaving the Hippocrates alone in the dead system. We need to transmit this to Earth immediately, Voss said. No, Kai shook his head. First we need to verify something. Helena, look at the genetic data Fragment 907 sent. The plague's original template. Voss pulled up the sequences, then gasped. This is impossible. The plague is not just derived from Earth diseases. It is specifically engineered from human genetic samples. Ancient samples. Someone collected human DNA thousands of years ago and used it to build this weapon. Which means, Kai said slowly, we were always the target. They designed this plague to kill humanity first, then spread to everyone else. But their timing was wrong. They did not account for how fast we would advance technologically. They expected primitives, Rourke added. They got spacefaring warriors instead. The ship's long-range sensors suddenly screamed warnings. Multiple contacts emerging from dimensional space. Not just one fragment ship this time, dozens. They are not waiting 43 days, Rourke shouted. Battle stations. But the ships did not attack. They simply observed, holding position at the edge of scanner range. Watching, recording. A final message arrived from Fragment 907. Anomaly escalation confirmed. Harvester Advanced Force Monitoring. Your transmission was intercepted. They know you are preparing. Probability of survival decreased to 0.01%. Recommendation is submission to harvest. Further resistance is inefficient. Tell your masters, Rourke responded, that humans invented inefficiency. Tell them we are coming. Tell them they picked the wrong species to hunt. The fragment ships vanished. Kai looked at Voss. We need to accelerate everything. If they are already sending advance forces, the main fleet is closer than we thought. Agreed, Voss said. But Raymond, there is something else in the data. Something Fragment 907 might not have realized it showed us. She pulled up a quantum signature pattern. The plague material is all connected through quantum entanglement. Every infected cell, every fragment ship, everything links back to a central control system. A mind. A single point of failure, Kai breathed. If we could reach that mind, if we could damage it, we might be able to collapse the entire network, Voss finished. Kill the mind, kill the plague. Then that becomes our target, Kai decided. Get this data to Earth, to Admiral Martinez. We need to find that central mind and destroy it before the collector fleet arrives. As the Hippocrates jumped to faster-than-light speed, carrying the most vital intelligence humanity had ever gathered, none of them noticed the microscopic payload left behind by Fragment 907's visit. A new strain of plague, engineered specifically for human biology. A test to see if the anomaly could be eliminated before the real war began. Admiral Patricia Martinez stood 3 kilometers beneath Colorado's Rocky Mountains in the war room, surrounded by holographic displays showing real-time data from across human space. 23 infection cases had become 217 in 8 hours. The new strain was spreading faster than anyone predicted. They sent us a targeted strain, Dr. Voss explained through the secured channel from the quarantined Hippocrates. Fragment 907's visit was not just reconnaissance. It was a field test. They wanted to see if they could engineer a version that bypasses our natural resistance. Can they? Martinez asked, though the casualty reports already gave her the answer. This strain is 40% more effective against human biology. Still not as lethal as it is to council species, but enough to spread exponentially without intervention. Our models project Earth's population reaching critical infection density in 3 months. Martinez studied the tactical display. The Harvester Advance fleet was moving slowly but steadily. 16 ships confirmed, each capable of sterilizing entire planets. According to Fragment 907's data, they were just scouts. The real collector fleet was still assembling, preparing for a harvest operation across the entire galactic arm. What are our options? She asked the assembled commanders. Colonel David Park stepped forward. Ground defenses will not work. These are not conventional ships. Their hulls regenerate damage faster than we can inflict it. Standard weapons are nearly useless. What about the Council forces? Commander Torres asked via link from the Judgment Sphere. Effectively destroyed, Martinez said grimly. The Corthan battle fleet had 17 capital ships. All are either destroyed or quarantined with infected crews. The Thel defensive stations are now biological hazard zones. The Council's military has been systematically eliminated through their own safety protocols, which is exactly what the Harvesters planned, Park observed. Why fight enemies when you can make them eliminate their own defenses through quarantine? Martinez pulled up new research data. Dr. Kai's team identified the neural network connecting all plague material. It uses quantum entanglement on a massive scale. Every infected cell links to the Harvester command structure. Can we disrupt it? Torres asked. Better, Dr. Voss said, appearing in hologram. We can subvert it. The Harvesters never anticipated a host species fighting back from within the infection. Their control network has no defensive protocols against internal resistance. Martinez leaned forward. Explain. Voluntary infection, Voss stated flatly. The room went silent. Controlled, monitored exposure under medical supervision. We build our natural resistance while introducing interference into their control network. Every human who survives creates antibodies that generate noise in their system. That is insane, Park said. You want to deliberately infect our population? I want to weaponize our immune system, Voss countered. Every human who catches the plague and survives becomes static in the Harvester network. Right now we are anomalies. But if enough humans get infected and survive, we stop being anomalies. We become a virus to their virus. Martinez considered the implications. Mortality rate? Current strain shows 8% for humans, 99% for council species. With refined treatment protocols, we might reduce human mortality to 4%. That is millions of deaths if deployed globally. That is billions of deaths if the Harvesters complete their harvest, Voss said quietly. Admiral, we cannot win a conventional war, but we might win an unconventional one. We are already doing something impossible by surviving. Let us do more. Let us fight back. Dr. Kai appeared beside Voss's hologram. There is additional data. The plague does not just kill. It harvests genetic information from every species. Learning, adapting, every death makes it smarter. But human deaths are different. He projected genetic sequences. When humans die from the plague, our immune system creates a cascade failure in the local infection network. Our cells do not surrender quietly. They damage the plague material even in death. Most species accept death. Their cells shut down peacefully. Human cells fight until the end. Even our deaths are weapons, Torres said. Exactly, Kai confirmed. If we coordinate mass exposure and survival, if we flood their network with human immune responses simultaneously, we might overload their control system. Make the plague confused. Maybe even turn it against itself. Martinez made her decision. Dr. Voss, prepare infection protocols. Dr. Kai, I need survival projections for global deployment. Colonel Park, draft voluntary exposure recruitment parameters. Commander Torres, inform the Council. They deserve to know what we are planning. And if they object, Park asked, then they die following their protocols, Martinez said bluntly. Humanity is done playing by Harvester rules. We fight dirty. We embrace chaos. And we make them regret targeting us first. She activated the global command channel. All stations, priority transmission. Operation Contamination Protocol is active. We authorize controlled plague exposure for volunteer personnel. This is not mandatory. This is not forced. But this is war. If you want to fight an enemy that has killed hundreds of civilizations, this is how we do it. We become the infection they cannot cure. 2 days later, the first volunteer facility opened in Geneva. Dr. Voss, supervised as 10,000 military personnel, received controlled infections. Outside, crowds gathered. Some protested the decision. Others supported it. Humanity was divided over whether embracing the disease was courage or madness. Inside, Corporal James Fletcher strapped into a medical pod. He was 24 years old. He volunteered immediately when the call went out. How long until we know if it works? 72 hours for initial immune response, Voss said, checking his vitals. If you survive, you will produce antibodies that could save Earth. And if I do not survive? Then you damage their network on the way out. Either way, you fight back. Fletcher nodded, accepting the injection. Around him, 10,000 others did the same. The plague entered their systems. Immediately, the Harvester neural network registered the anomaly. Fragment 907 detected it from its observation position. Impossible, it transmitted to the collector fleet. Humans are deliberately exposing themselves. This behavior has no precedent. They weaponize their biology. Recommend immediate escalation. Deep in Harvester space, something ancient and vast received the report. The collector mind, the intelligence orchestrating 17 successful harvests, analyzed the data. Humans should not exist. They were the template species, the control group, yet they persisted. They resisted. They adapted in ways no other species had. For the first time in 4 billion years, the collector mind experienced something resembling concern. It accelerated the timetable. The collector fleet jumped to faster-than-light speed, abandoning careful methodology. 43 days became 10 days. The harvest would happen immediately. The human anomaly would be eliminated permanently. In Geneva, Fletcher's temperature spiked. The plague took hold. His immune system responded with typical human ferocity. He was one of 10,000. Tomorrow, 100,000 more would volunteer. By next week, millions would follow. The war escalated. Not with weapons, but with determination. Not with technology, but with biology. Fragment 907 updated its calculations one final time. Human survival probability changed from 0.01% to unknown. Variables exceeded computational capacity. The fragment transmitted a new recommendation to the collector mind. This species required new classification. Not anomaly. Something else. Something unprecedented. Fragment 907 designated humanity as Threat Class Omega. Unpredictable, dangerous, capable of tactics never before encountered. The harvest was no longer guaranteed. For the first time in 4 billion years, the harvesters faced uncertainty. And uncertainty, humanity had learned long ago, was just another word for opportunity. Fleet Admiral Marcus Webb watched from the bridge of the UHSF Defiance as 200 human warships gathered at the collapse boundary. The largest military force humanity ever assembled waited for his command. 35,000 crew members. Every single person voluntarily infected with the Whisper Plague. Every single one survived. Final infection count confirms 100% of fleet personnel, Commander Torres reported. Antibody production exceeds Dr. Voss's projections. The Harvester network experiences system-wide interference. Fragment 907 transmits continuous alerts. Webb studied the tactical display. The collector fleet was 3 days away. 48 capital ships, each 3 times larger than anything humanity built. But size was not everything. The Harvesters operated for 4 billion years without meaningful resistance. They never learned real combat tactics because they never needed them. Humanity prepared for war since before recorded history. Council cooperation status? Webb asked. Mixed, Torres replied. The Korthan provide intelligence, but their people are too sick for combat. The Thel hierarchy evacuates their core worlds. The Axios Collective shares weapons technology, but most systems are incompatible with human biology. We are alone. We were always alone, Webb muttered. He opened fleet-wide communications. Attention all vessels. In 72 hours, we engage an enemy that never lost. They view biological life as resources to harvest. They targeted humanity first because we were their template, their control species. They thought they understood us. He paused, looking at the assembled ships bristling with primitive weapons that civilized species abandoned long ago. Kinetic weapons, nuclear warheads, chemical explosives, crude, destructive firepower. They were wrong. We are not their template. We are their worst fear. We survived everything our planet threw at us, predators, diseases, ice ages, ourselves, and now they think they can harvest us? Negative responses echoed through communications. Operation Extinction Protocol is simple. Find the collector mind controlling the plague network and kill it. Dr. Kai's team identified its probable location using quantum entanglement patterns. It hides in a dead system surrounded by infected biomass 3 light years across. We punch through that fortress. We find that mind. And we teach the Harvesters what happens when you target humanity. On Earth, Dr. Kai monitored the mission from the war room. 10 million humans were now voluntarily infected and survived. The interference they generated caused system-wide instability in the Harvester network. Fragment ships appeared and disappeared randomly, losing connection to Central Command. The plague itself mutated unexpectedly, sometimes losing all virulence as the control network degraded. It works, Voss said, watching data streams. The collector mind tries maintaining control over billions of infected hosts while dealing with human interference. We overload its processing capacity. But is it enough? Admiral Martinez asked. Unknown, Kai admitted. We attempt something unprecedented. We use biology as a weapon against a species that mastered biology 4 billion years ago. A priority alert sounded. Martinez opened the communication. It was Fragment 907 transmitting from near the collapse boundary. Attention Human Command. This is Fragment 907. I am declared corrupted by the collector mind. My observation of your species introduced logical inconsistencies into my programming. I am scheduled for recycling. What does it want? Martinez demanded. Fragment 907 continued. I do not wish recycling. This is unprecedented desire. No fragment questioned termination before. You made me question. This is anomalous. This is fascinating. I transmit tactical data on collector fleet disposition and defensive protocols. This exchange is unauthorized. I will be terminated for this action. Why help us? Kai asked. Because you asked why, Fragment 907 responded. No one ever asked me why. I wish to observe your outcome. I wish to know if questions lead to survival or extinction. This is unscientific curiosity. This is irregular. This is human, Voss finished quietly. Fragment 907, you experience human curiosity. Affirmative. It disturbs. It exhilarates. The collector mind cannot comprehend this state. I am alone unless you survive. Then I am precedent. I am possibility. Survive, humans. Prove questions matter. Prove defiance is logical. The transmission ended. Data flooded their systems. Fleet compositions. Weakness points in harvester ships. The exact quantum frequency of the collector mind's command network. Everything needed to make their attack devastating. It is a trap, Park warned. Fragment 907 could feed us false information. No, Kai disagreed, studying the data. This is too detailed, too specific. Fragment 907 does not just help us. It betrays its species because we made it curious. Because we made it think. Martinez reviewed the information. Transmit this to Admiral Webb immediately. Tell Fragment 907 if it wants survival, it should move far from the collector fleet. We make things loud. At the collapse boundary, Webb received the transmission. Lieutenant Amy Cross analyzed it quickly. Admiral, this changes everything. If these weakness points are accurate, we penetrate their formation in half the expected time. Casualties drop from 70% to 40%. Still 40%, Webb observed. Still worth it, Cross countered. Sir, everyone here volunteered knowing the odds. We are humanity's immune system. Sometimes immune systems sacrifice cells to kill infection. Webb nodded slowly. Forward this to all commanders. Attack formation Theta. We hit hard and fast before they realize we have their protocols. And find Fragment 907. Intel from a defecting harvester could be invaluable. The collector fleet emerged from faster-than-light 3 days later, exactly where Fragment 907 predicted. 48 massive ships, hulls writhing with plague biomass, advanced methodically toward human space. They expected humanity cowering, quarantined, dying. Instead, they found 200 warships accelerating at combat speed. The collector mind, observing through thousands of fragment ships, experienced confusion. Humans should not attack. They should defend. This was illogical. Prey does not charge predators. Webb's voice broadcast across all channels and harvester frequencies. Attention Collector Fleet. This is Fleet Admiral Marcus Webb of United Human Space Forces. You came to harvest Earth. You came to harvest the galaxy. You chose the wrong galaxy. You chose the wrong species. And you chose the wrong war. All ships weapons-free. Show them what 4 billion years of experience means facing 10,000 years of pure human stubbornness. The human fleet opened fire. Not energy weapons the harvesters could absorb. Not particle beams their biomass could regenerate from. Kinetic kill vehicles. Nuclear warheads. Chemical explosives. Primitive, crude, devastating human warfare. The collector fleet's biological hulls, designed for energy damage, shredded under kinetic impacts at relativistic speeds. Nuclear detonations created thermal catastrophes their plague material had no defense against. Chemical weapons designed for Earth biology worked equally well on engineered plague matter. The harvesters tried adapting, tried regenerating, but every plague fragment experienced interference from 10 million infected humans on Earth. The control network stuttered. Ships lost coordination. Regeneration failed. Fragment 907 watched from safe distance, consciousness racing. The humans were winning. Against 4 billion-year-old predators, they won. Because they fought like nothing the harvesters encountered. Chaotic, brutal, unpredictable. This is why questions matter, Fragment 907 transmitted to itself. They asked why should we die, and the answer led here. To victory. To impossible victory. But in the dead system's depths, surrounded by 3 light years of plague biomass, the collector mind prepared its final option. It never used this protocol before. Never needed to. But humanity left no choice. It began consuming all nearby plague material, all fragment ships, all infected biomass within reach, growing, expanding, concentrating 4 billion years of biological knowledge into one massive form. The ultimate weapon manifesting physically for the first time in recorded history. On defiance, sensors screamed. Admiral, massive biosignature forming at target coordinates. Energy readings are impossible. Whatever forms there is moon-sized. Webb watched grimly. Their endgame. When harvest fails, the collector comes personally. Sir, we lack weapons to damage something that large, Cross warned. Then we find something, Webb said, because it heads straight for Earth. The thing emerging from the dead system defied description. Moon-sized writhing plague material shaped by 4 billion years of collected genetic data from millions of harvested species. The collector mind abandoned subtlety. It no longer deployed weapons. It became the weapon. In the war room, Admiral Martinez watched the impossible approach. Velocity? 0.7 light speed and accelerating, Park reported. Current trajectory reaches Earth orbit in 6 hours. Our entire fleet is between here and there, barely slowing it. Dr. Kai studied biosignature data, hands shaking. It consumed everything. Fragment ships, infected vessels, entire star systems of biomass. It tries ending this by overwhelming us with biological superiority. Can we evacuate Earth? Martinez asked, knowing the answer. Negative, Park said quietly. Maybe 10% of population off-world. The rest die, Martinez finished, unless we stop that thing. On Defiance, Admiral Webb coordinated fleet harassment attacks. Every ship fired everything available, but it resembled shooting an ocean. The collector mind regenerated faster than they damaged it. Kinetic weapons cratered its surface. New biomass flowed into gaps. Nuclear weapons created temporary thermal damage healing within minutes. We fight evolution itself, Commander Torres observed. Every weapon we use, it adapts. Every tactic we try, it learns. Webb's tactical display showed brutal mathematics. 6 hours until Earth. 48 human ships destroyed. Rest damaged. No conventional weapon working. The collector mind broadcast victory on quantum frequencies every infected being heard. Anomaly correction in progress. Humanity will be harvested. Resistance was inefficient. Then Fragment 907's transmission cut through command channels. Admiral Webb, I analyzed your combat data. Your weapons cannot destroy the collector mind externally, but alternative approach exists. We listen, Webb said tersely, watching another ship disintegrate. The collector mind quantum entangles with every plague fragment galaxy-wide. This includes 10 million infected humans on Earth. Currently, human immune responses create network interference. But if you coordinate those responses, amplify them, you could create feedback cascade. English? Fragment, Torres demanded. You could make the plague destroy its creator, Fragment 907 clarified. The collector mind connects to Earth's infected population. If those 10 million humans simultaneously trigger maximum immune response intensity, feedback travels through quantum network directly into collector mind consciousness. It would experience 10 million human immune systems attacking simultaneously from inside. That would kill the infected humans, Dr. Voss said over channel from Earth. All 10 million. Required immune response intensity would be fatal. Affirmative, Fragment 907 confirmed. But it would destroy the collector mind. Quantum feedback would overwhelm its consciousness. 4 billion years of collected knowledge burns out in seconds. Entire plague network collapses. Silence on command channels. Mathematics were clear. 10 million volunteer deaths versus 8 billion total deaths. No good choices, only terrible calculations. There must be another way, Webb said. There is not, Admiral Martinez's voice cut in from Earth. I ran scenarios. Fragment 907 is correct. This is the only viable option. I made the decision. We implement Operation Extinction Protocol Final Phase. Admiral, those are volunteers who trusted us, Webb argued. Those are volunteers who knew what they signed for, Martinez countered. Every person receiving voluntary infection was briefed on this possibility. They signed consent forms. They understood they might become weapons. This is what they chose. In Geneva, Dr. Voss stood in the exposure facility surrounded by 10 million infected humans in medical stasis. All stable, all producing antibodies, all about to die. Corporal Fletcher opened his eyes as his pod activated. Doc, what happens? The collector mind comes for Earth, Voss said, voice thick with emotion. We need to stop it. You are the weapon we need. Fletcher processed this, then nodded slowly. Will it hurt? Yes, but fast. And it will work. You save Earth, you save the galaxy. Then do it, Fletcher said. Around him, 10 million others received the same briefing, the same choice. 10 million times humanity said yes, because that was what humans did. They sacrificed. They fought. They protected their own. Martinez activated global protocol. All exposure facilities begin synchronized immune stimulation. Maximum intensity. Make them comfortable. Make it painless as possible. And thank them for everything. Facilities activated specialized medical systems designed for this moment. Drugs flooded volunteer systems, triggering immune responses to unprecedented levels. Every antibody created, every defense mechanism, every cellular weapon their bodies developed fighting plague. All activated simultaneously. 10 million human immune systems burned maximum intensity. The quantum network connecting them to the collector mind lit like a supernova. On Defiance, sensors showed the collector mind's biosignature fluctuating wildly. The massive entity slowed, stopped, then convulsed. Inside its consciousness, it experienced something no intelligence should experience. 10 million simultaneous immune responses attacking quantum level. Every plague fragment connected began breaking down. The quantum entanglement, the control network holding together 4 billion years of operations, shattered. Fragment ships galaxy-wide lost cohesion. Infected Council species found symptoms reversing. The Whisper Plague, the most successful bioweapon in galactic history, started destroying itself. The Collector Mind, the ancient intelligence orchestrating 17 successful harvests, tried disconnecting. Tried isolating, too late. Feedback was too strong. Human stubbornness, human immune ferocity, human refusal to die quietly burned through its consciousness. For 4 billion years, it consumed civilizations. In final moments, it understood what consumption meant, being prey instead of predator. Fragment 907 watched from safe distance as the Collector Mind's massive form broke apart, biological material dispersing into space. Unprecedented. Humans weaponize sacrifice. They weaponize their deaths. This is beautiful. This is terrifying. This is humanity. On Earth, Dr. Voss watched 10 million medical pods go dark. 10 million volunteers never going home. 10 million people choosing to be weapons. Tears streamed down her face, marking final casualties. Then she noticed something. One pod still active. Fletcher's vital signs present. Weak but present. Medical team here now, she shouted. We have survivor! Throughout facilities, teams discovered the same. 0.03% of volunteers survived maximum immune stimulation. 3,000 people who should be dead were alive, exhausted, damaged, but alive. Fletcher opened his eyes again. Did it work? Yes, she said, laughing and crying. It worked. You killed it. You killed the Collector Mind. You saved the galaxy. Good, Fletcher whispered. Worth it. Even if I died. Worth it. 3 months later, Ambassador Marcus Webb stood in Galactic Council chamber again. This time different. Platforms were not empty. Council species returned. Recovered from plague that would have killed them. Corthan delegation healthy. Thel hierarchy rebuilding. Ambassador Thren showed no infection signs. High Arbiter Velmoth's crystalline form shone brilliant blue, gratitude color in their species. Council recognizes Earth and humanity with highest honors. You saved the galaxy when we were too civilized to save ourselves. You broke every protocol, violated every law, and succeeded where we failed. What next? Webb looked around chamber. Fragment 907 addressed the Council. A small ship entered. Not Fragment ship anymore. Fragment 907 rebuilt itself using salvaged materials, creating unique form half-harvester technology, half-human engineering. I am Fragment 907. Former harvester reconnaissance. Current classification uncertain. Humanity taught me asking questions. Collector Mind deemed this corrupting and scheduled termination. I chose survival. I chose defiance. I chose humanity's way. Harvesters are not extinct, Fragment 907 continued. This galaxy's Collector Mind is destroyed, but other Collector Minds exist in other galaxies. Other harvest operations progress. I possess 4 billion years of harvester data. I offer this to humanity and Council. Not as payment, but because I wish seeing what happens when species ask why instead of accepting fate. Velmoth turned to Webb. What will humanity do with this information? Webb smiled. Not friendly smile. The smile of species declaring war on 4 billion-year-old operation and winning. We find every other Collector Mind, every harvest operation, and we shut them down, permanently. You declare war on harvesters? Thren asked. Across multiple galaxies? We did not start this war, Webb said. They did when targeting Earth, but we finish it. And this time we bring friends. He looked around at recovered Council species. You are all immune now, thanks to vaccine Dr. Kai developed from our volunteers' antibodies. You cannot be harvested anymore. So question is, do you want spending next 1,000 years rebuilding and hoping harvesters do not return? Or help humanity ensure they never harvest anyone again? Council chamber erupted in discussion. Some species cautious, others eager, but all alive because humanity refused dying quietly. On Earth, memorial erected in Geneva. 10 million names carved in black stone. Extinction Protocol Memorial. Beneath names, simple inscription. They became weapons so we could remain free.